All right. In the interest of time, I think we'll just get started. Sorry about the other space. I have no idea what happened. That's just what happens with Twitter Spaces. So, welcome to THORChain Spaces 117. This is FamiliarCow. So I can just get started, and if Chad ends up joining, then he can also talk with us. We're gonna have him on as a guest today. But cool. All right. Looks like everything is good with the mics. If anyone else wants to come up on stage, feel free to request and we'll do, questions and things. But yeah, we got a bunch of stuff to go over, so we'll take a good amount of time to just go through everything. If I'm going too fast, slow me down. It's going to be a little faster, I think, with just one person up here, but let's do it. So we passed the end of the first quarter. So I'm working on the end of first quarter 2025 report, and the team is also working on the Q2 roadmap. So we can just do a quick review of everything that happened in the first quarter. I'll just go down the list and give you some interesting things that have happened over the last 3 months. And yeah, and we'll look at some of the features that have shipped on THORChain in Q1, and then we'll also go over what to expect in Q2. And then we can move on to a bunch of other things that are happening. Just the regular update cadence, what's coming in the next version, what just shipped in the most recent one. Some discussion about economic security and the posture changes we're going to need in order to ship new things like Ruji and to add new chains. Update on TCY and the THORFi unwind, and obviously more stuff about Ruji and token switch. And yeah, that's where we're going. So yeah, starting off with just Q1. Yeah, I mean, Q1 was actually the highest volume quarter ever. 19.6 billion in total US volume, the highest day being about 1.5 billion. And let's see, there was a lot of swap fees collected, about 15 million in liquidity fees. And if you recall, one of the major things that was done during the first quarter was a vote to deprecate block rewards. Block rewards being basically inflationary rewards going towards LPs and to nodes. So this is the first quarter where we've really pared down on block rewards and just moving towards 100% liquidity fees. So this first quarter, almost 92% of all fees earned by the protocol were from organic liquidity fees, which is pretty insane. And Chad's here. Hello. Is it working now?
How's it going, guys? Sorry, the got rugged earlier.
Yeah, welcome back to Twitter Rug.
Bit of Rug Fest.
Yeah.
2025.
Yes, sir. Yeah, welcome back, dude. It's been a really long time since we did one of these together.
Yeah, it's been what, over a year? I think a year and a half, maybe.
Probably. I'm sure the people are happy to get it back together. So here we are.
Get the band back together. Reunion tour.
We're back.
Yeah, man, we're back. I'm excited to be back. I'm rejoining the project. I'll be taking on some of the more the technical lead kind of role within the community. Keep my finger on the pulse and making sure we're pushing forward to achieve the different goals that we want to achieve on the project.
Awesome. Yeah, great to have you back in the dev seat. Yeah, definitely needed right now, and it's cool seeing all the different teams come together as part of dev, like Nine Realms and all the other teams that have stepped up to just be part of the dev community here. It's grown a lot since even just a year ago.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely changed a lot since I was last actively involved in the project, and now we have several dev teams. I mean, we've always had several dev teams technically, but now we have even more. We got Strangelove actively building for expanding the chains, and in Bifrost you got Ruji building the app layer and doing all sorts of crazy stuff over there. I mean, it's pretty exciting to see so many different devs coming together to contribute so much value to the protocol.
Cool. Yeah, we're just going through some Q1 stuff right now, and then we can go into the roadmap and things that are coming out soon, and then just updates on the most important topics. So just going through Q1. So first thing was the removal of block rewards, and that was a pretty major change. So 100% of rewards now, that's almost 15 million in Q1. That's coming from just liquidity fees on swaps. So organic fees coming from anyone making a swap on THORChain, including ARBs and all the retail wallet flows and everything. So that's real sustainable revenue, just coming towards participants in the ecosystem, LPs and nodes, which is awesome. And now going forward, 100% of rewards are completely organic. No, the reserve is pretty steady, just in just how full it is, and it's not emitting anything. Basically, everything is just coming from swap fees, which is really great to see. It's something that we've wanted for a long time, and it's awesome to finally see that we're there with everything just coming from organic fees, non-inflationary sources.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure how I personally feel about this. It might have been too early, in my opinion, to go down that particular road. There's a mentality that the block rewards were creating a downward pressure on the room price, which is technically true, but like insignificant in my mind. And as the market goes more bullish, in prices in the industry go up in a sense, that we'll have less rewards for people in those circumstances than we would have. But that's the decision people made. That's the decision we're going. So
Yeah,
here we
but
go.
but narratively though, it's very strong, especially in comparison to like any other project in this space, where pretty much any project relies on inflationary rewards just to keep some kind of flywheel going. It is cool to see us like kind of weaning off and just moving in the complete opposite direction and saying, hey, we have sustainable revenue, and we don't need we don't need the inflationary rewards, and let's experiment and get off of it, and because it's not even necessary at this point, just because of the maturity of the protocol itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good, definitely a positive like narrative to have. You know,
Yeah,
the question becomes like, what's more important, the narrative or higher yields? And that's you can debate that all day.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Other stuff in Q1. I mean, first thing that was shipped is the base chain. So the chip base, like I don't know, first day or two of 2025. It feels like forever ago, but yes, we added base. We have ETH on base, USDC and CBBTC, and liquidity has been kind of stunted just because of like everything going on in with DeFi, but then also like reaching the liquidity hard cap, pretty early into the life cycle of base being added was pretty unfortunate. So we haven't been able to get like super deep liquidity on base, but base is live and has been cranking out swaps. I see swaps coming in from a bunch of different wallets on base, which is great to see. So yeah, we can like when we talk later about the just economic security stance, we can just shed some more light on that. But yeah, that was the first thing that was shipped this year, base chain, which I think will be a very impactful chain, and obviously like what the chain that's like pretty much winning the L2 game right now, like far and away the most activity going on base. So I was pretty happy to see that come out and get live. Also, the first chain that we've started using RPC providers, where not every single Thor node is running a base chain daemon, nor would it really make sense to, being it's much more centralized chain where every single Thor node is using a well, not every single Thor node, because I think some are spinning up their own base daemons, but the first chain where you can tap into a third party RPC much more easily to get data, which is more of the direction going forward, especially with the much higher throughput chains, which require a lot of resources, like Solana and things. So this is the first chain that was shipped with that kind of architecture.
Yeah, I think more are coming. We got a lot more chains in the works too, so I'm sure we're gonna see more of that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Next in Q1, the lending and savers unwind and restructuring. I think people are mostly familiar with that, but the sunset of lending and savers and the passing of Proposal 6 from the Maya team. My team is still working on the TCY implementation, which is scheduled to come out in the next version, which will probably be in about 3 weeks. So TCY is not delivered yet, but obviously during Q1 one of the major events that went on was just the entire like lending and savers unwind. So yeah, more details coming out about that soon, and claims are not live yet, so there's nowhere to go to claim TCY yet. But those details are will be coming with the next version of Thornode.
Yeah, that should be like later this month. We should be
Yep.
able to see that it is this starting to go live. This is starting the process of it.
Yep, and the place to claim that will be something like on THORChain.org or somewhere very obvious. So there won't be any rush to claim it. So just keep an eye out, and it's something that we'll continually be pushing out updates on. And a place to look is just here on THORChain X account. We also increased the number of new nodes per churn. So previously, it was you could add an additional 2 nodes per churn. So if 3 leave, then 5 could potentially join. There was a vote to increase that to 4, which means if 3 leave, then 7 could join to increase the total count by 4. So during some of the craziness of node operators churning in and churning out, and a lot of them churning out at once, the active validators decided to vote to increase the number that could churn back in to get back into a more stable position, just as a network, and get more node bond on active rather than on standby, not really doing anything for the network. So now the network just adds more nodes per churn, which has helped just increasing the node count instead of keeping a lot of nodes on standby when there's a lot of volatility.
Yeah, I think we're at like 100 nodes now, or a little over. Where are we at now?
I think we're pretty close to that.
Yeah,
If we're
to
not
look it
over,
up.
it might be at 100 right now.
I thought it was like 101. I thought, but I could be wrong.
103.
103. That's pretty awesome, by the way.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, we're over 103. I think we dipped down to like in the 80s, possibly, like maybe beginning of the middle of February, maybe. That sounds
Yeah,
about right.
like, how many nodes did we have at the time of the whole like Thorfi drama, like a month ago, whatever it was? Like, it was at 100 then, or how many was like
We
100
were
and
over
something
100.
then?
We were like close to 120, and then it dipped down to probably like 80 or so, maybe at one point, maybe in the 90s or like the low 90s, high 80s,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
now
yeah.
we're back up over 100, up to 103 active validators.
Cool. Well, clawing back.
Yes, sir. And then the outbound delay changes. So there were some minor modifications to the outbound delay, which maybe we need to revisit some point in the future, just take another look at it. But this is something that we did back in the end of January, and just making the outbound delay a little bit faster, so decreasing the amount of time that will delay outbounds for at the longer end. So I think before it was over an hour, it was like an hour and 20 minutes or something. Like it was an insanely long time. So we opted to shorten that to around 45 minutes, I believe. And then we just increased the threshold that will push through at a single time. So you could just think of that as like widening the pipe. So if like if the pipe is like 1 diameter, we just made it a lot wider. We could push more volume through without delaying it as much. So we shortened the pipe and made it a lot wider, just making it easier for throughput to get through. So we could not delay transactions as much. There was a lot of feedback that like obviously the outbound delay is an important security measure. Having something there just to stop transactions from immediately being signed out is something that was implemented after the 2021 hacks that happened on THORChain. But yeah, it was the feedback is definitely well received. That sometimes swap times are very long when there's a lot of volume going through the network. So it's something we opted to shorten with a vote that carried out in the end of January. I think things are a little bit better, but maybe something to definitely keep an eye on, just our security posture and like how much we want to delay transactions coming out of the network while also keeping a secure experience, but having a good user experience too. It's a difficult problem that isn't exactly quantitative to solve.
Yeah, I mean, that's what always happens. Like, on the one side of the spectrum, you have security. On the other side of the spectrum, you have like ease of use or convenience. and it's you generally can never have both of them. You have to kind of select one or the other, or slide between the two of those 2 points. And it's up to the community to decide like how much convenience we want and how much security we
Right.
want,
There's nothing
and
stopping
balance
us
those.
from just turning it off completely and just signing outbound funds as soon as THORChain
Right.
decides like that it does a swap and it could just immediately sign outbound funds, but then it also removes any kind of protection that we have around like, THORChain sending out too much funds, which was, a potential bug that's happened before, right? So it's like, yeah, the longer the wait time, the more time that we have to react to any kind of adverse situation that we might have to react to. But that also means that that's the worst average UX for a user. So yeah, balancing those is tough. I think it's
Yeah,
in a
it's
better
tough.
spot though than it was in the end of last year for sure.
Yeah, we've touched it a bunch of times to make improvements. Like where we did like swapper clout was a thing we added a while
Yep.
back that helped. And so we keep on making like improvements to try to find ways to like best balance those two things, and it's a tricky thing to hit, but we've done a pretty good job so far overall. And most of the time, I don't think there's much of an issue with the delayed outbound, but sometimes, in some circumstances, there can be. But it's tough.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. A lot of it's just a communication issue, just making sure that users understand like that they get their funds in this amount of time, and it really sucks when you delay like a smaller outbound for 45 minutes or whatever, just because there's some whale swaps that are going through at that moment. But it is important for the network security,
Yeah. And you can't just say like small swaps are quick and large swaps are slow. Like that's just
right?
not an effective methodology, because an attacker will just make 1,000 small swaps or whatever, and then all this stuff will exit quickly. So that's one of the
Yeah.
challenges.
Have you thought about Swapper Cloud at all recently, Chad? I don't know if like I know you're definitely the most familiar with the Swapper Cloud system. I'm wondering if it's worth just taking a look at Swapper Cloud to see if it's actually functioning as we want it to, or whether we should turn some of the knobs to make the system more efficient. Yeah, I mean, I'm just like I don't know if anyone really has the expertise to do that. Have you thought about Swapper Cloud at all?
I mean, I remember when we actually did Swapper Cloud back in the day. Like we saw like a significant decrease in wait time by like, I don't remember the exact number on the top of my head. I think it was something like 80% or something, or 90%, something like this. So it was very effective at the time. I think part of the reason why we're seeing much more wait times now is because the room price is low. So hypothetically, if room price is right now at its all time high of like, let's just say $20 or whatever, then we wouldn't have any waits at all. Like as it's sometimes with some of the issues we have are just like temporary issues that we see because of just like market conditions, and this is being one of those things. And also having like not a lot of security, on the security side is another kind of result of just being in a bearish market.
Yeah, for sure. Because all these values are all pegged to the rune value. So as yeah, if rune price is low, that means on average longer swap
Right.
times, less liquidity on the like. That's just the nature of THORChain and how THORChain works, because everything is based on rune values by necessity.
Right. 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 That's exactly right. That's part of the issue, I guess, in some ways. Hopefully, like if Room were to double in price tomorrow, hypothetically speaking, then this we would probably wouldn't be needing to have the conversation.
Right. I haven't heard anyone talk about the outbound delay times anytime recently, but it's always something to keep an eye on. Just that we're not,
Yeah.
delaying things too much, and whether adjustments to Swapper Cloud could be the solution to it rather than changing the outbound delay system itself.
Yeah, we can work with like somebody like Orion who does this kind of data science stuff pretty well, and we can analyze the effectiveness of Swapper Card,
Right.
like mathematically remove it from the system and see what the actual result would be. And then if you wanted to make it even more effective in the Swapper Cloud, we could like increase your clout number to be like 2x. I don't know. I'm making up a number here, but like that's theoretically possible as well. Or you can just tune down the entire system, just make it less sensitive, and you can do that. But you also make it like the amount of money that somebody can steal within 30 minutes goes up.
Right.
Theoretically.
Next thing I got here is the removal of admin Mimir. So admin Mimir was completely removed from THORChain after the THORFi sunset. Admin Mimir was completely removed, which means that nodes have like obviously, so admin Mimir had its own checks and balances before, where a node Mimir would override an admin Mimir. So admin Mimir can act quickly in some situation, but and it was also barred from changing certain parameters of the network. But the nodes could always override that. Now admin Mimir has been completely deprecated; those keys are completely burned and gone, and that's completely removed from the code, meaning that nodes have complete control over the network. So a majority of nodes and a vote is needed to change anything on the network, like the outbound delay, anything. The nodes need to vote. Admin Mimir doesn't exist anymore, so it's it's something that's been talked about for a long time, and Admin Mimir was kept around because it was convenient, especially for security, just being able to change things without, from the dev perspective, to be able to turn on new features without having to, do some kind of vote, being able to react quickly and turn things off. But with the removal of admin Mimir, that's completely in the hands of the nodes. So it's up to the nodes to enforce the security posture of the network and just release new features, do governance, do votes. It's a new. I don't want to say it's a completely new era for THORChain because it's kind of like the next step along the path that it was already on. But uh, yeah, the governance of the network is totally in the hands of the validators, and that includes the operational maintenance, like pausing chains in order to release like an update as like Gaia does a hard fork or something like that. So that's completely in the hands of the validators and can be coordinated by the community for anything. So even if like any like there's no admin that can come on and change any parameter of the network. It has to be the validators that decide to do something.
Yep, that's another good kind of green flag.
Yeah, then we have a bunch of things for Ruji and for the app layer. So we have
Yep.
the. I mean, I'll just go through all
Oh,
these right here. Oh, sorry. What were you
one
saying, Chad?
one more thing on
Yep.
one more thing on the mirror thing. By the way, is like I remember when I actually originally coded Mimir. Like I was living in Melbourne, Australia at the time, and the reason we even called it Mimir is because there's a character named Mimir in Norse mythology, and at the end of the story, the Mimir character gets his head chopped off. uh, and and so that was the reason why we called them a mirror was because like we always knew that this was like a temporary thing, and eventually Mimir would get his head chopped off, and the protocol the nodes would take over things. So like it was always a thought to be a temporary thing, even its initial conception that Mimir would just be around for some period of time before the operators could take it fully over, and we finally got there after a little bit longer than I would have guessed at the time when I coded it out to begin with. But nonetheless, here we are. We got it
Yeah.
done.
Well, a lot of things changed too. We added operational Mimirs and we expanded the functionality of node Mimirs. That way you don't need a 66% majority in order to do everything because, if there's an attack scenario, you need to do something, or if say even there's like a chain update, you're not going to get every single node to, go on and, change some config in order to just do some general maintenance that is just necessary for the chain. So like some of the changes that happened along the way, including the operational Mimir things and just expanding the node Mimir functionality, I think went a long way towards being able to deprecate admin Mimir. And it could have been done before, but I think it was kept around as a convenience because what like basically like what if you deprecate it and then you need it and then so it was more going along the lines of like, all right, if we don't use it within the next 6 months or whatever, then we can deprecate it because we know that we don't actually need these keys anymore. And then things obviously accelerated more quickly off the base of the THORFi unwind, but it was always part of the plan to get rid of admin Mimir. It was just kept around for its incredible convenience, but also like the fear of not wanting to get rid of something that you might possibly need and could prevent some kind of disaster scenario. So there's reasons to keep it around, but it is good that now that we're kind of past admin Mimir and any kind of like privileged actions on the network.
I got to hop off just for like 2 minutes as I get into to an elevator, but I'll be back online. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, sure. And yep, sure. Aaluxx is here too. What's up?
Hey guys.
Uh, yo.
Yeah, sorry for joining just now. I was otherwise a bit busy. Um, yeah, since you told me about the call, I was frustrated that it was at a time. But look, we're lucky. I have a little bit of time now.
Oh, cool. No, thanks. I didn't think you were gonna join. I appreciate
Yeah,
you coming.
yeah,
If you want to give your updates right now, you could give updates on TCY or whatever else is on your
yeah, for
mind.
sure. Thankfully, had a meeting end early, so I'm here. Thankfully, but yeah. So we on our side we're pretty much done with everything TCY. We are just putting a last merge in today regarding smart contract whitelisting for the interaction of TCY with app layer and some little changes on how decimals work and are handled, which is just how often you pay out and to how many decimals, so it's kind of completely fair. But once that's done today, we just need to send the merge. We'll have it tagged with 3.5.0, and it's how Nine Realms gets signaled that the formal review process should start. We are really on time because we have almost 2 weeks before the 3.5.0 cutoff date, which is 17th of April. And just importantly, it has already been reviewed by Nine Realms, some parts by Chad, most, if not everything, by Multipartite, by Samna himself. So it's already been reviewed. It's just like the last formal review and approval process. Hopefully, nothing serious comes up, and in that case, we're ready for 17th of April release to StageNet. And then once we will be sure to stage test extensively everything from the payouts, the UI that the guys from Auto Compound cooked up, um, opting out, swapping, everything. Uh, if nothing serious comes up, then we should be ready for 22nd of April, provided that everything's secure and that we indeed have THORChain release v 3.0 5.0 by then. But a few things can change. Maybe THORChain is 1 week late with the update, which is fine, or maybe we notice something that we change and we have to make the 3.6.0 version instead. But I'm highly optimistic that we are at the end of the um, of the race now. So yeah, just so you guys know, it's 110,000 lines of code added, 20,000 lines of code deleted. I'll add the merge request here. So definitely a monstrous job we managed to pull off in just these what is it, 2 months. So definitely proud of our team with that. Yes, some part is a store migration of the claims, so that takes that's probably at least 30,000 lines of code, but still, uh, it's been it's been definitely crazy. So yeah, part of what we've done, and the comments from people reviewing have been encouraging. Hans from Rugia also already reviewed the white listing of smart contracts. He saw it was well done. So hopefully, such is the way again of the more formal review process. I'm adding in the comments now the merge request on GitLab for those of you that are not, can't find it yourselves. You can there see a little bit about what it has, all the commits, all the differences between TCY and develop. And I encourage people that are technically oriented to also help in the review process. Anybody can comment on GitLab. Anybody can provide.
Man, sorry, this is like really rough today. I'm not touching anything. My hands are off the phone, and it's still just like going black. I don't know what's going on.
I think I think it's the tariffs. The tariffs are screwing it up.
Yeah, something's going on today. Yeah, really sorry about this, guys. It's probably really tough to listen to. It's very tough to have a conversation when it keeps getting interrupted every couple of minutes. So I'm really sorry about that.
I thought the timing was great because like Aaluxx said, like, oh, everything is going great, and then in that exact second,
Perfect.
got fucking
Fade,
rugged,
fade to black.
played the black.
Yeah, all right. If it cuts out again, that's just gonna be it. I'm not starting another another one.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is the last. This is the last try. Uh,
Let's attempt.
yeah, I will do my best to try and stitch these together and upload them to the RSS once it's done. So hopefully there's some kind of coherent conversation going on. But
Hopefully,
yes, bear with us. Sorry about that.
yeah.
Um, oh yeah. So the one thing that I wanted to say just about TCY and just the future releases going forward. So the current release cadence is about every 3 weeks. There's going to be a new update. We just released version 3.4 uh, on Friday, or maybe it was early this week. It was this week, I believe, that we released 3.4, and so that means that in about 3 weeks, we're looking at the release of the next version. So just so people get some kind of idea on like what kind of time frame we're looking at for just any new version really should be about 3 weeks after the previous one. But that's especially important for TCY being it's just an important part of the network right now, and it's obviously affecting a lot of people, so like we want to get it out as soon as possible, so just look forward to the next update, which will be uh, version 3.5, which will be in about 3 weeks. So just look for the 3 week uh, cadence, and that's the cadence that new things will happen at in terms of like new features and things.
Yeah,
So yes,
100%.
and again, if the space gets rugged again, that'll be the conclusion. We can't keep doing this. So yes, thank you all for bearing with us on the technical difficulties here. All right, what
Yeah,
else do we got?
I'm excited for 3.5 to come out and we can move forward with TCY. Like that's obviously the most important thing for us to be working on right now, for sure, by a good margin. Whenever the network's not in a 100% healthy state because something is paused or something, like that should be always be like the most important thing we focus on. So I'm excited to see TCY
Yep.
land and move forward.
So let's go through the roadmap, which is going to be the what to expect in Q2. So we have a bunch of different teams spiking on a lot of different issues. So let's just go through one by one and say what all of the roadmap items are, and then who's responsible for each of them. So all this will be published, by the way, probably on Monday. We'll be releasing the Q1 report and the Q2 roadmap on the Nine Realms Medium. But this is what all the devs have discussed, and it seems pretty solid right now in terms of just like it doesn't seem like it's going to change. So, all right. So going down the list, first thing obviously we already talked about is TCY. So TCY is the number one priority right now, and that'll be out in the next version. So that we should get that before the end of the month here. One of the other biggest priorities is getting EDDSA signing. So EDDSA. So I guess a little bit of context. All of THORChain was designed around ECDSA signatures. So there's a lot of background work that had to go into using a different signing curve for EDDSA, which was necessary for Solana and Sui and Ton and Cardano and a bunch of other chains that you might know and love. So we kind of had to refactor a lot of how THORChain manages its vaults and generates multiple different key types and all that. So that is still ongoing, and it needs to be delivered in order to ship the new chains that we want to ship, which is obviously like Sol being the number one priority. But other chains are in the pipe, and some of them ready to go. So in terms of like chains that are ready to go, XRP is ready to go, but that won't be shipped until after TCY. So I wouldn't expect that until the end of the month. And once we get EDDSA, Sol is highest priority. But other than that, we're also the team is also working on Tron and Yeah. Any others that are currently have PRs up? I think Stellar is getting scoped right now.
Yeah, XRP I think is also very close to being landed. Um, Tron, what else was it? I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Solana being the biggest one.
Yeah, I kind of want to hold off on like just like my own like kind of hot take is like I kind of want to hold off on Solana because I want our first EDDSA chain to be like a smaller chain, just in case there's like some bug or some issue or whatever. It's much lower stakes in a matter of speaking, and let like EDDSA kind of like prove itself on mainnet for some reasonable amount of time before we throw like a larger chain like Solana at it. Does that make sense?
I think it could make sense, especially because Solana has like a different architecture just for scanning blocks because the blocks are so like it takes longer to scan the block to read the blocks than it takes Solana to produce the blocks. So EDT is a geyser for Solana in order to get the data,
Yeah,
just to
yeah,
be able to read it. So like there are other architectural changes besides using EDDSA. So it could make sense to ship Cardano before but I mean I think that's still under discussion. I don't think there's any kind of like solid um, like which needs to come first. But all of
right.
those are the chains that we want to get out ASAP.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
of which are basically done.
yeah, yeah. And Cardano is like not that big of a difference. I mean, it is like Bitcoin's what do they call like extended UTXO model or something like this. So it's very similar to what we've already seen. Obviously, it's not the same, but I could see us doing like Cardano first, um, and just letting BGDSA have its own has a moment in the sun to like to bake and make sure it's all solid and not any issues.
Yep. And Strangelove is taking the lead on adding some of these new chains. That they have XRP. XRP is ready to go. That's not going to be until after TCY. So I would also expect that sometime in May, being able to add. And Jack is here now. But yes, Strangelove is taking the lead on all these new chain integrations. So they have a bunch of chains that they're looking forward to adding. If you want to come up and talk about it, Jack, yeah, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, we'll just keep going down the roadmap list. We also have the Bifrost peer-to-peer refractor that Strangelove is working on. So that's just cutting down on bloat coming out of Bifrost. So Strangelove's goal is to drop down block times from 6 seconds down to 1 second, which will make THORChain just a lot faster. And that's something that Strangelove is also taking the lead on. And Bifrost is where they're starting to do that. So just cutting down on some of the observations that have to be made for each of the external transactions that come into THORChain, and just cutting down a lot on just some of the, I don't want to call it spam, but just the unnecessary things that are getting posted on chain, which just cut down, which make it so you can't really cut down the block times as much.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, thanks to Jack and his team for all their work on those improvements to Bifrost. And something I've been wanting to do for a long time, but just was never high enough priority to get around to it. And but I'm really happy to see it kind of finally landing. So thanks to Jack.
Yep. And then we obviously have Ruji, which is currently in the process of shipping. So I think we forgot to mention this as part of the Q1 thing shipped, but we shipped Cosm Wasm and token switching, which is currently ongoing right now. So node operators are voting to be able to switch over tokens from their old chains onto THORChain. So basically, like they're removing the old. I don't know the best way to say this is, but they're just moving from the old coin to a coin that's now on THORChain. So their native assets will be on THORChain, and that's currently undergoing right now. So the nodes are voting to allow certain coins to switch into native assets on THORChain, and that's a handful of projects that will be part of Ruji and the app layer. So that's current.
Yeah, if anybody knows, if anybody out there is a node operator or knows somebody's a node operator, I think we got like maybe 40% of the vote through this, and we'd like to see that kind of get across the finish line. So go ahead and do that. I'm here for I think it's called like enable switch, something with a token name at the end of it. Just do that a bunch of times and get that across the finish line. That'd be great. Appreciate it.
Yep. So we still have an ongoing vote. So if you're a node operator or if you know a node operator, please vote to let the Ruji tokens merge. And there'll be native assets on THORChain going forward. And the first products will start to roll out on Ruji as well. So they'll be shipping a bunch of products, including Ruji Trade, pools, and likely perps is the last word that I have on that. If any of them want to come up and talk about Ruji, I know JP is going to be doing a space later today, more focused on Ruji. But if anyone wants to just come and explain some of the Ruji things that are being worked on right now, or just share some things about Ruji, we are here to listen. And I'm curious to learn about some of this stuff too, about some of the new products and fun new things that are coming out. We're all really looking forward to the app layer, and it'll be a fun experiment, I think, in seeing what we can do with seeing what we can do on THORChain and just expanding the capabilities of the chain as a whole. So let me bring up Mark here and Pragmatic Monkey from the Ruji team. What's up, guys?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, PM.
Yeah, go ahead. We jumped in.
I just became a speaker. I just became a speaker, so I just jumped in. But yeah, thanks, Cow, to set the stage. We are indeed in the midst of a vote to migrate and merge over the old, quote unquote, assets and tokens from primarily the Kujira chain, but obviously also the Levana team and token is building perps for Ruji perps. This is the first contract, the merge contract and the migrate contract that we're bringing over. So with the vote going through, we will effectively have an app layer on THORChain, which is obviously super exciting. It's something we've been working on the past 9 months. And it will open the floodgates for all the different products, contracts that we have in store and worked on for the past 9 months, starting with, obviously the staking and revenue contracts, so people can not just merge their tokens into Ruji, but also stake their Ruji and earn the fee revenue going to the app layer. And then, of course, what everybody is waiting for, I think, with anticipation is the order book DEX, the Ruji Trade product, together with the Ruji Pools. PM, I know, has been working a lot on this, so he can speak more to this. And then shortly after, we have Ruji Perps. So really, all the sort of classic trading products is coming live as soon as we can, really. We have all these different contracts audited already, so they're really locked and loaded, if you will. So yeah, super exciting times for us. Anyone listening who's a node operator, please go in and vote. I can drop the tweet that I did, for example, myself for the different Mimir updates that you need to make if there's any questions. But yeah, exciting times. PM, anything to add?
Yeah, if you want, I can dig a bit into Ruji Trade and Ruji Pools. Don't know if there's an interest on this call, so just let me know.
I think let's go for it. I think we're curious to hear.
Okay, cool. So that's gonna be really much the flagship product of the app layer. Of course, there are much more apps coming, but this order book DEX, Ruji Fin, so it works a bit differently from most of the AMM DEX people are familiar with, including THORChain, which effectively is both a DEX and an AMM at the same time, meaning inside of each pool, you have a given bonding curve and the price is distributed over this bonding curve depending on the quantity of token A and token B in the pool. And it's just following the constant product AMM with a slip fee that make it a bit different from other AMM. On Ruji, the app layer, so Ruji Trades, you get the DEX that is separated from the market maker, the automated market maker. So the DEX is just a place, an order book where you can add liquidity in a given pair at any possible price level you want, just like a traditional order book in traditional finance. And then you get the AMM, so what we call Ruji Pool, which add liquidity to the order book. And so it will start with a fairly simple strategy. So we'll start with just a standard XYK strategy to get things started. So pretty much the same as what you are familiar with on the base layer. But After that, we are going to expand to a bunch of other strategies, which will allow us to add some more liquidities that will live on the app layer, most likely, in most cases, paired with USDC, so the secured version of USDC from Ethereum, given that's the token, the stablecoin that has the most liquidity on the base layer. And we can start to add like more concentrated liquidity type of strategies, or even like directional strategies, anything that will add economic activity. And one of the first strategies that we will ship after the XYK will be a strategy that virtualize the liquidity on the base layer order book. And so that's the way it works. Effectively, imagine like you have a user who has 10K USDC and want to buy BTC. So the issue we are having, why we don't, even if the app layer lives inside THORChain, it shares the same block time, same consensus, but given how swaps works on the base layer, they are always happening at the end of the block, and they are ordered by slippage. So that means that we cannot have atomicity, transaction atomicity on the app layer by default. So we created this. What we want to be able to do on the app layer is to have like complex strategy. You want to be able to have like a smart contracts that come, do something, then do a swap, then do something else, and keep going in one block, in one transaction. And so we needed transaction atomicity. And how can could we achieve that? Well, we created this virtualization strategy that effectively works this way. So you you have a user who come with 10K USDC, want to buy Bitcoin. The AMM will be able to go and query the base layer and say, okay, if I want to buy, how much Bitcoin will I get if I were to do a swap now with 10K USDC? Okay, this is the amount you will get. And then the AMM will be able to price at a slight premium to that. So you can think of it the same way as a front end, THORChain front end that will add an affiliate fee, except that it's a different mechanism. But you will have a little premium because you cannot have entire certainty that by the end of the block, the price wouldn't have moved. And depending on other transactions inside this block, you may end up having a slightly worse price than what you were expecting, or maybe slightly better will never happen, but can be slightly worse. So you will cut, the IM will cut at base layer price plus a small premium. Then we'll borrow, just for the time of one block, the BTC from Ruji, from the landing vault, the BTC landing vault that will live on the app layer, and then use that to give the BTC to the person that wanted to do the swap, get the USDC, and then at the end of the block, swap the USDC back for BTC on the base layer and repay this loan. So it's just like a one block duration. So you take a very little risk. People will be able to LP in those vaults. Effectively, that's an arbitrage strategy. So it democratizes access to arbitrage for anyone that wants to participate. And the cool thing is it's a single-sided strategy. So it also means that you don't get exposure to EL with that. And it allows us to virtualize the liquidity that exists on the base layer, on the app layer, have a transaction atomicity. So we can do all sorts of things inside the block without being blocked by swaps on the base layer. And it's great for both the app layer and the base layer, because in that case, every single dollar of volume on the app layer executed via this IMM strategy generate $1 of volume on the base layer. So that's a strategy that will launch shortly after the Ruji Trade and Ruji Pools are live. This is when things are going to suddenly get more exciting, because we'll be able to then create pairs for virtually any combination of assets that live on the base layer, but have that in another book on the app layer, and that's where we should start to see much more volumes happening on Rujira. And then after that, we'll launch like a lot of different other strategies. We have some, so we want to do some Uniswap V3 concentrated liquidity strategy. We want to have a way to stream the yield out of the principals, just like offering effectively the same user experience as what people are used to on UniV3. We have some very special order types unique to Rojira, which are called Oracle orders. So it works a bit the same as a limit order, but instead of setting a price that is effectively a fixed price, you can set a price that is a little premium or discount to an Oracle price. And in that case, the Oracle will be the price of the base layer pool. And so that allows us to do also all sorts of other strategy. That just for a simple type of usage, you could think that if you want to swap a large amount similar to a streaming swap, but even faster, you could just put an order at a slight premium that is enough to cover the base layer fee. So let's say at 16 or 70 bips, and then you will have arbitrageurs at every block will just fill your order at this little premium to the base layer pool, and you can get a fairly fast execution, probably faster than what you would get with a standard swap fee, and all of that generates volumes for the base layer as well. So lot of, and then we can use that to build more advanced market making strategy. And the beauty of this is that then you can have this market making strategy with Oracle orders that effectively change their price every block, that trade against the market making strategies that use fixed limit order. And then as long as you have volatility, which is the only thing we have constant in crypto, you end up making money. We having this generating volume, having this strategy, trading once against another. And so that will be stuff that we want to launch relatively soon after we have a pool and trade. And that's eventually how we want to drive like a lot of more volumes on the app layer, on the base layer, a lot of more fees. And we want them to, once we can showcase that, it's a very strong value proposition for institution or anyone effectively telling people that you can come and trade with native assets in the form of secured assets, secured by THORChain technology. You can trade native Bitcoin, make market for native Bitcoin, and do that in a fully decentralized way without having to use a wrapped or the version issued by some centralized intermediary or a bridge version issued by a third-party bridge and adding non-necessary exogenous risk to the system. You can do all that only on the THORChain app layer with Rojira products. And we want to attract like other people to come and build their own strategies and start to really like build up this new economic activity on top of THORChain. So those are the two big products in the pipeline. And yeah, of course, then you also have like the Perfs product built by the Levana team that hopefully we also add some nice volumes as a scale up. And for that, it would be great if I don't think there is anyone from the Levana team that is present here, but would be good at some point to also get them on a call and they can tell you a bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. Just to round up, and then I'll pass the mic back to you, Cow. But lots of potential, as you can hear, guys. 50%, just to repeat, is going back to THORChain for paying for economic security. So there's a lot to be gained for everybody involved, including the node operators, obviously. And just a personal take, I come from the THORChain community predominantly, and I know there's some THORFi trauma still lurking back there in the back of people's minds. The app layer is fundamentally very different, and there's a lot of other capabilities that we have. But to me, the thing that really distinguishes the app layer Rojira the most is that you can just go, if you just go on rojira.network/portfolio, try to connect your wallet, and not just one wallet, connect all your wallets. Rojira and the app layer really allows THORChain to grow beyond the affiliate model. THORChain has nailed native swaps and the affiliate model, and has, a lot of the success comes from that. Rojira allows THORChain to grow beyond that. We basically have all these different wallets that you can connect to. MetaMask, you have Leap and the Cosmos wallets, Kepler, you have Brave, you have OKX, you have all these different wallets that are not necessarily affiliates. All of these interactions that users make from these wallets, obviously using secured assets, they ultimately go into fee generation for THORChain. and that's something that we can't do just on the base layer. So yeah, that's just a personal take from me. I'll close it off there and pass it back to you, Cow. But yeah, exciting times. I see votes coming in already, which is great. Anyone who is talking to their node operator, get them on your DM or whatever, and get them to vote. Thank you, guys.
So, and maybe I'll add one more thing for node operators. This the security model for THORChain is not, but by what we are trying to add here, it's not adding any extra risk for THORChain. All what the smart contracts can do on the app layer is just the same thing that any person can do with a standard EOA wallet on the base layer. So it's like when we talk about creating product with leverage and depth, it doesn't add any extra risk to the protocol. There is no minting of rune involved. If you have a leverage, this stay on the app layer, and this is taken by lenders on the other side. So it would be a peer-to-peer money market. And anything that the smart contract do is the exact same thing that what a normal user would do on the base layer. So really, no security concerns there. Same for economic budget with the current votes. At least what we are asking for here is just like transforming existing exogenous assets into native THORChain assets. So it will be nothing to secure externally once the switch is done. Those assets will be burned forever on their origin chain and will only exist on THORChain app layer. So there is no external security concern here. So please, node operators, vote and give us the opportunity to show that we can add value to your nodes.
Cool. Thanks, guys. And yes, if you're a node operator, then yeah, take a look at the vote. Chad, maybe let's get into maybe one last topic, and then we can wrap it up. I think we went. That's pretty much everything for the Q1. Sorry, the Q2 roadmap. Now this will all be published, like available to everybody on Monday to look at. So I guess the last thing to mention is just the economic security posture, which we kind of touched on a little bit, and that's something we'll need to address before releasing any new chains or continuing with the app layer thing. So do you want to talk about your PR and just like the economic security posture going forward, which is something that the nodes will kind of have to think more about, and the community will have to agree upon the way to go forward with economic security, and maybe some context about like economic security as well, just like why it exists in the first place.
Sure, yeah. So we've always, from the beginning of the protocol, always talked about economic security, because there's only two ways you can secure assets. Ellie, let's go. Come on. Sorry, my daughter. There's only two ways to secure assets, either through trust mechanisms or economic incentives. And we were the only one, to my knowledge, that actually pushed for the economic idea rather than the trust-based system. And to this day, I think that's still true, except for maybe some forks of THORChain possibly. But we've always pushed for this, historically speaking. And the question now is whether we want to continue to have that kind of mentality or not, or what. And so once again, as we were talking earlier about how the root price is down low, and therefore it forces us to ask questions we don't normally have to ask. But the question is, because since the bond value is relatively low to its history, we have less security available to us. And so the question is, how do we want to deal with this? We've been going through a raise the bond thing for the last couple of weeks, and which is great. Ken has been working on that with the community, and they've raised a lot of room, which is great. More nodes coming in. Excellent work by Kenton and crew. So I'm just crossing the street. So at some point, that's we're probably going to run out of steam in that sense, which is expected and perfectly fine. The next step is to how do we want to change our security posture, and that's a debate for the community in general to talk about. So the current PR that's now been open and will hopefully be merged into 3.50 will give the ability to switch the cap on our TVL to be relative to the total bond of the network, and represented as basis points. So if we wanted to, as a community, we can vote and say, Okay, instead of being the what's called the economic effective security, which is the bottom 2/3 of total bonded room, it would be the complete amount if we did 10,000 basis points. We could do less. We could do like 6,700 or 67%. We could do that. We could do more than 10,000. Whatever the community wants to do is basically what would be capable in that particular moment. So we're going to have that conversation probably after 350 comes out, to figure out if we feel comfortable expanding the kind of security posture to a more pragmatic approach or not. And if we choose not to, then we won't have space for the app chain and the new chains coming in to add liquidity. And then it becomes, so how do we want to solve that problem? Which goes into a larger conversation.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing here is just getting the tools into the node operators' hands. Just give them a multiplier and say, like, hey, you can vote to increase this up if we ever want to expand the cap for liquidity, like the amount of liquidity that we can have on the network. It's something that pretty much any other network that I know of does not limit the amount of liquidity on their network. They'll just take on unlimited funds secured by however much security they have. So I think just putting it into the hands of the node operators to make the determination whether to increase, whether to stay at one level, or so by shipping this in 3.5, this will give us the ability to let node operators vote and decide whether to turn it up, how much to turn up economic security. So that way we're not just like completely disregarding it and breezing past it, but at the same time we're not just handcuffing ourselves to the radiator and not letting us ship new chains, not letting us deliver new innovative products. So I think that just getting the tools out there to let the nodes decide, that's always what the developers have done, is just get the tools out there for nodes to then decide, and just let consensus really form around these ideas. So I think some kind of my personal opinion is some kind of moderate increase makes sense, just to free up enough cap space to start delivering some new things and get some momentum going. Because right now it doesn't make sense to just keep handicapping ourselves to the same economic security bits, which have caused us trouble before and are currently stifling our ability to, especially like releasing new chains like Solana and all the other chains that we've already mentioned that we want to ship. It's something that we need to address before that happens, because it's not even possible to add liquidity right now if we wanted to. So yeah, just creating the tools to give those to the node operators and decide whether to increase and to how much. That's what we need to do. So after 3.5, there will be some kind of vote. We'll share our opinions about how much to increase, and we'll try and form some kind of a community consensus around economic security, and that'll be the tack on that going forward, which I think is one of the more important issues right now to address, especially considering it's blocking a number of major developments on the network, and especially like the growth of like new chains and the app layers is easily the biggest thing. So it's something we need to address soon. And thanks, Chad, for taking that on.
That'll be a very interesting conversation when we're ready for
it. Yes. Yeah, I'm writing up some my thoughts on it right now, and just like a lot of context about like why things are done the way that they've been done, and how we've kind of evolved our security posture over the last 3-4 years, because things have changed a lot. Like THORChain used to be under the assumption that everything would be in the pools, which is why THORFi existed in the first place. THORFi and derived assets and synths all existed to keep all assets within the pools, and that's what created these crazy dynamics that led to where it is today. And so then we started doing trade assets and securing assets outside the pools, which is then leading into the app layer. So like the posture of the chain has changed a lot, so I think our security posture needs to change along with it, but in a sensible way, where we're not just saying YOLO and just let as much someone can deposit 100,000 Bitcoin into the protocol. That wouldn't make sense, but just doing something sensible, like understanding where we came from, but also being able to evolve and just move into the next stage of THORChain. I think that's what we need. So
yeah, I think
we'll have that conversation when we get there.
I think one thing I was just going to say is, like, I don't think anybody's thinking about this particular angle on this conversation. is that to think about what happens when we switch from a bull market to a bear market, right? So maybe we increase the cap from the effective bond right now to, let's just call it 100% the active bond, hypothetically, right? So we create a lot of like a lot of assets in the network, secured assets, trade accounts, trade assets, all these kind of things. And then the bull market happens and we get more liquidity coming in because there's more space for security at that point because crude prices going up, theoretically. And then we go from a bull market to a bear market, and the secured assets of the trade assets don't go anywhere. They still stay in the protocol. Versus like before, when the room price goes down, we naturally eject BDC and ETH and all these assets just from arbitrage, right? To ensure that the value of the pools of the thing we're securing is worth less than the value of the security. So it's kind of an interesting thing. You can go ahead and expand things now, and that's kind of all well and good, but you have to think about what happens in the next bear market, and are we okay with that scenario?
Right. And I mean, this is the right tool for that, where we can always like scale it down. Like you could you could use this tool to scale it up or scale it down and kind of pause things where they are. So like it's the perfect tool to just get us to where we need to be. And also, like, just to point out that like we were using 100% of the nodes bond before we switched to effective security around 2 years ago. So this was something that we did previously, and now switched back, and now we can, using this new functionality, we can kind of flip flop back and have more discrete control over it through votes rather than having to do a bunch of code changes. So, yep. That's about it. Any final thoughts do you guys want to share before, and then we'll wrap it
up? Good for me.
Well, maybe just one thought on the security budgets. So yeah, I don't want to go into a deep conversation now. I'm sure it will take a bit more time to get there. And for now, what we need is some room to prove the app layer. But for certain products, especially if you start to include a leverage product in there, having even the possibility that effectively people using those products are at the mercy of node operator to be able to repay their debts in case market drop, I don't think is an acceptable user experience that will allow us to scale. So imagine if you take a loan against your BTC and suddenly market drops. Now you want to repay some of your loan so your LTV stay compliant and you don't get liquidated. But suddenly, because market price drop, rune price drop, and now there is we reach the cap, and you cannot bridge in USDC, secured USDC anymore to repay your loan, then you get liquidated. That I think is just it's not an acceptable user proposition, and we won't be able to scale with that. And so I think it's important to keep that in mind, and of course it's also important to discuss if there is any merit in the current security model or not. And I can totally see how did it come from when everything was just in the pool and we wanted to do everything SMAC security. But reality is also like for now, you assume that effectively you need $2 of rune to secure $1 of value. But in the case of a market manipulation, if somebody was to drop a lot of rune suddenly, your rune price will not always be equal to $1. It will drop faster than whatever is the value of the secured asset on the other side. So it's already like not that it's directly related to secure asset, but there are a few inbuilt assumptions that don't really tie together. And it also assumes that the bonds, the people who deposited, the node operators are effectively the ones that put their capital at risk 100%. But reality is you can have people who bond with node operators. So node operators will even try to manipulate already the price with a fraction of the capital that is in their node. So there are already like much more, I think, optimism in the security model today. That's what it looks at first glance. And so I think that also I mean, it should be taken into account that it's maybe already quite optimistic, and therefore further securing, further relaxing the rules will not change much of the real security. Another point as well is we don't track the average entry price of node operators. So it's possible that nodes have been accumulating runes at a much lower price, and we'll only go live with that when price go much further up, and we think everything is secure, but actually they have been able to get in at a fraction of the cost, and they can extract much more value by just being suddenly malevolent and in their governance decision. So there are a lot of different points that makes this what looks like a very robust security model may actually not be that secure anyway, and already fairly optimistic. So I just hope we can little by little get the community understand that and rally against a more forward-looking approach to security, where the way, at least for the app layer, we pay for security is in the form of future cash flow from the economic activity we generate. And that's what people value, and that's why people are want to buy either Rune or Ruji and participate in this ecosystem.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, once we get those changes actually shipped, then we can like have that discussion, and we'll definitely have some community spaces around then, just to get thoughts, and there will actually be like a vote to increase it, because we do need to do something in order to get things off the ground. So like we can always adapt as things go, but we something needs to be done sooner rather than later to get this stuff off the ground. So it's definitely something we'll have to keep in mind going forward. But cool. Let's wrap it up here, and I'll make sure to. Sorry, we got rugged like twice on these spaces, so I'll clip everything together, and as always, this will be posted on our RSS feed, which goes to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. Also to YouTube, and yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for bearing with us. Catch you later.
Peace out.
See you.